you'll have questions on this new registration system. We have a knowledge base that we've established. Let me help you get to that so you can see where that is and you can find answers to many of those questions. And I'll address some of those questions right here. Pull up a new tab and simply type in kb.dol.in.gov. You'll click on Youth Employment of the two tabs and the filters, and you'll be given the primary questions right up front on our youth employment system, because that's the ones being asked the most. And those questions can be such things as, your company is Indiana near the state border, but you have minors coming from out of state across the state line to work in your state. Do you need to include them in the registration? What's important about this registration system, it's totally separate from what is going away, the work permit system. Also on July 1, the work permit system will cease to exist anymore. And so all of the requirements for the work permit system don't apply, or the exemptions in the work permit system don't apply to the registration system necessarily. So in the work permit system, if they were from out of state, a different state, they didn't have to get a work permit. But that's not true with registering. If they're from out of state, they still will need to be registered in this registration system. So make sure any out-of-state employees are registered with your employment there on the system. And also in the work permit system, if they've already graduated, then they don't need to get a work permit. Well, that work permit system's gone as of July 1, so it doesn't apply the same. In the registration system, they'll still need to be registered until they turn 18. And what happens when they do turn 18? I've designed the system so that minor, as soon as that moment they turn 18, they will be automatically removed out of your current employee registration. You don't have to do anything. It just happens because they're no longer covered by the requirements of the law. They will remain in your terminated minors file, and so you can access them if you need to in the future for 2 years. Statute of limitations, because we can always come back with our inspectors and we can ask for information going as far back as 2 years. So we'll need to see your registry for those 2 years. But you don't have to deregister them, so to speak. That'll happen automatically. And so that's important. You don't have to worry about that as an employer. And you don't have any more an intent to employ form to fill out. You don't have to deal with the school system anymore. They're out of it. This registration program is between you and the state, and you're registering those minors. The registration system won't even accept a minor that happens to be 18 years old, and you didn't notice that. As you go to put that minor in, if their birth date, it'll continue to reject that. And so you have to take another look at that minor's birth date and say, oh yeah, I missed. We've had several employers that have asked, how come it's not taking this minor? And we ask that first question, when's their birth date? Another question that came up is, how about if you are employing minors through a staffing agency? Who does that minor work for? Well, if that minor's paycheck is coming from the staffing agency employs that minor. It's the staffing agency that will need to register that minor. One of the questions that we get is, I registered when I had 5 minor employees, but now I only have 2 minor employees currently employed. If I hire an additional minor, do I need to input the minor information on the registration screen? Yes, you do. Once you've registered, then you need to maintain that registry. even though you were required to register with 5 or more minors and you did register, then you went down to 4 or 3 or whatever the number is where you're not required to register them, so to speak. The fact that you had 5 before, you need to keep registering those minors that you employ. So that will be important. What we recommend, though, is if you as an employer may only have 3 or 4 and you don't know, you might have 5 or 6 later on, go ahead and register. You're not going to be penalized for registering when you didn't need to. You're only penalized when you register and you didn't register when you should have, according to the law. So keep that registry going. You'll need to register even those hiring temporarily during the summer. They'll have to be registered if they work for you, even if it's for a short time period. Another question we get is, if they have a work permit, do I need to register them? Well, right now, keep in mind 2 different systems. So, yes, effective July 1, the requirement for work permits goes away. The requirement for the registration system begins, but 2 different types of programs, 2 different requirements in those programs. All of those minors that had work permits before, yes, you need to register them. Any new minors you hire, yes, you need to register them. The work permits you had for those minors you had before, don't throw them away. Keep them on file for 2 years, because we can always go back as far as 2 years to look for information. Did you have that minor a work permit when you were supposed to? So keep that work permit on file for 2 years from the time either they terminated or effective July 1 if they were still in your employ, whichever came earliest, 2 years from whichever time period is the earliest. The elimination of work permits and the addition of this new registration system doesn't affect work hour restrictions whatsoever. So it's the same work hour restrictions. They still can only work 9 hours max per day, 40 hours during the school per week, or 48 hours in non-school. This is for 16 and 17-year-olds. And, 6 consecutive days in a row max, no more. Doesn't matter what week you use. So those restrictions are still there and still important to follow. They're not affected by the new registration system or the elimination of the work permit. All right. If you have any questions, anything at all, feel free to contact us, and you can do it. You can here's our website address, by the way, to go into the youth employment and begin your process of registering. But we also have our email. You can contact us at youthemployment@dol.in.gov, or contact us through phone, 317-232-2655. And I hope this has helped you gain a better understanding of how to use the registration system and get yourself started on it. Once you get into it, it's very simple. And then you'll be able to just very quickly continue it throughout the year. Thank you very much.